Hi guys and welcome back to OG Cars, and today you join me with my Skoda Favorit Forum hatchback for the first episode of saving this car and getting it back on the road. For a really quick backstory, this car came up in the local Skoda group and the guy said that basically he'd had enough of it and he was going to get it scrapped because he had suspected head gasket failure and he couldn't be bothered to fix it. So I made an offer, and because I was the closest, he offered it to me if I could pick it up that day, which I managed to arrange. And it came home with us. You know what I'm like when it comes to Skoda Favorit. I don't want to see them being scrapped. I think they're a really underrated car and I love them, and that's why I think I've owned like 8, 9 or 10 now, something like that. Can't remember how many. 3 at the moment though. Good numbers. But what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be starting this. Now, we're not going to be doing everything. We just want to take our time, because what we thought is this might be quite a good video for other people, just to be sort of informative of what you need to do when you're doing these sort of repairs. So I am mainly going to hand it over to Owen, because obviously Owen is an ex-mechanic. Owen knows what he's doing, but I'm going to learn along the way with you guys.
Okay, so this car first got delivered to Ed's house, which is where you obviously would have seen it last. And basically, to start with, we thought, okay, the oil and coolant is mixing. So we've had this a few times now on Skoda Favorit. It seems to be a very common problem. The core plug underneath the rocker cover shoots out, and that's it. It just mixes all coolant.
Or it rusts out.
Or it rusts out, yes, or it rusts out. I can't remember if this one had popped out or rusted out, but yeah, basically one or the other. It then therefore mixed the coolant from within that channel into the oil in the rocker side. So unfortunately, that was the reason for that. So we thought, okay, we'll clean it up, we'll change the core plug, we'll do the oil and the coolant again, and everything will be fine. Unfortunately, not in this case. I imagine it's been slightly overheated, and therefore the head gasket has gone, because when you put coolant in, you see it escaping from the exhaust. So when this car is on, you can see it smoking. So unfortunately, the coolant is getting into the combustion chambers, I assume, via the head gasket, and therefore we need to do the head gasket. They're not too bad a job on these, so yeah, you're going to see us start it today. What we're going to do is just get sort of like the ancillaries off. So we're going to get anything to sort of like the carburetor side off, the exhaust, drop it down, air filter off, alternator side, that sort of thing, just so that we're ready at a point in the next video where we can undo the head bolts, lift the head, clean it up, do the gasket, and get it all back together. Okay, so we're going to start with the radiator side here, and we've only got a few things to remove. We've got 2 pipes this side, we've got the lowermost coolant pipe on this side, we've got the fan switch here which has 2 wires, only one of which we need to remove because it's attached to the car loom, and we've got an earth wire on this side which we need to remove. So I'm going to remove the lowermost coolant pipe first. Now, to be fair, I don't know how much coolant this has left because it's been burning most of it, although it was still burning some while it was last driving, so there's probably a little bit of coolant left in here. We want to remove all of this in this case. You wouldn't normally have to do this, but we're going to do it in this case because we want to change the radiator. There's a bit of rust along the bottom of it, and to be honest, after this car's done, it's possible it may find a new home because we have too many cars anyway. So that said, we want it to be in tip-top condition for the next person that gets it. Okay, so I've got a tub underneath the car which is going to catch at least 20% of what I am about to receive through the radiator now. So we're just going to pop that off there. And if I check, yeah, about 20%. That's fine. Okay, so the yellow wire which goes to the fan switch is from the car loom, so we'll just disconnect that. The red wire just goes to the fan, but the fan has a blue wire which goes to the earth over there. So we've got a 10mm, and it won't be very tight, so I'm not going to use a ratchet. I'm just going to undo it with a screwdriver style piece. Take the 10mm off. This is actually the headlight mount as well, but there's a few other nuts holding it on, so that's fine. But you don't have to take the nut off all the way because it is just a slide-on earth joint, so that bit is absolutely fine. Now we've just got to take off these 2 pipes, which are a 6mm. So I've got a small ratchet with a 6mm socket on. I'm just going to remove these 2 pipe ends, and then all I've got is 2 10mm bolts at the top of the radiator in each corner, and then the lowermost part of the radiator is just on a bush, so we can just pull it forward and lift it after the 2 10mm are out. So these top radiator bolts are going to need a ratchet. They'll be a little bit tighter. There we are, you can hear me crack off. Again, 10mm, and I managed to lose one of my ratchets, so I've got a large one with an adapter on. And the other one's probably downstairs with the Volvo. So I'm just going to remove the bolt from this side, the bolt from the other side, and then we can literally just pull forward that radiator and lift it out. So, as is the problem with the car world, things you say aren't necessarily the things that you can do, because that bolt you just saw me undoing, the rivnut that's on the inside, unfortunately is spinning with the bolt, which means you somehow need to try and catch the inside, which is fine, but it means you've got to take the grill off, which on most cars, again, that's fine, you know, a couple of bolts, a couple of screws, you know, Pandas are 4 screws. Skoda put bolts behind the headlights, so we've got to also take the headlights out. It's a bit of a shame, but therefore, now you're going to see us take the headlights out, the grille out, and then we're going to get to the rivnuts, take the radiator out, and then we can actually do fun head gasket stuff.
So while Owen is sorting out the first problem that we've come across, basically we can't find some of our tools, so I'm a little bit helpless at the moment, so I just thought I'd talk it over so Owen can focus on trying to get this bit done. So basically, there are 3 bolts that hold on the headlights. It's relatively simple design for getting them off, and then obviously you've just got to unplug the electrics for the bolts. And then there are 4 bolts that hold on the grille. So there's 2 that you can see, and then there's 2 that are hidden behind both of the headlights. So as you can see at the moment, Owen is just trying to get those bits off, and then hopefully we can get to the radiator, which was literally the first step of what we wanted to do anyway.
So, someone has decided to cable tie a pump to the adjuster on the headlight, so I'll just cut the cable tie so that the headlight can actually come out. I say come out, I only need enough room to get to the 10mm bolt on the grille, so I'm not going to be too worried about taking it out all the way. I've got a very handy ratcheting 10mm spanner, which should get this bolt undone for me. This is me being lazy and not wanting to take out the headlight all the way, but unfortunately, let's just see how far it can go. I'm pretty sure they've got these, they've got like washer fluid filled, what do you call them, adjusters, and that makes it a bit more difficult. So I've left the wiring and those adjusters attached. So if the adjusters work, you don't want to touch them. I don't know if they work on this model anyway, but again, it's not worth playing with if you can get around it. So we're just going to take the 10mm bolt out the side. There's plenty of room here with the headlight like this. Like so. And then the same on the other side. Just want enough room to take the other bolts. I'll find the other bolt for that grille one day when I get the rest of the grille out. And the last 2 bolts of the grille are just on the top, which are nice and easy to access. This is exactly what you want. I'll put the bolts somewhere safe-ish, and the grille just lifts off, like so. Where on earth did the bolt go for the headlight? We'll find that in another life. Okay, so here is our problem. It's basically some kind of rivnut style thing. It's meant to stay there like this one does. This bolt is actually out on the left hand side now, and the rivnut stayed in place, which is exactly what it should do, but unfortunately this side is not playing games. So I've got some mole grips. I'm just going to tighten them up, and that's got it fairly tight. Hopefully we can now just crack it off the bolt from this rivnut, which it's coming straight out, which is ideal. The rivnut's now toast. In an ideal world, you get another rivnut. I don't have new rivnuts, so I'll probably just bolt on this after. It means that if anyone has to change a radiator again, they have to do what I've just done and take the grill and headlights out. But I complain about it, it's not actually that big or long a job. That took me, what, 10 minutes, so that's absolutely fine. So there we are, rivnut and bolt. So as you can see, the radiator has now fallen forward. Just to give us a bit more room for the fan to come out, I'm just going to take this pipe off, which goes to the thermostat from the radiator. We removed this obviously from the radiator side earlier, so I'm just going to move that fully now, just so it's fully out of the way. Put it with all of our bolts and things, and here we are. we should now have access to just lift this off of the 2 rubber pieces it sits in on the bottom. And there we are, 1 radiator out. So here we are, new radiator in the box, very shiny, not covered in whatever this nasty orange stuff is on this one, and obviously it doesn't have a nasty rusty spot at the bottom of the rad. And I think you can see, yeah, it's not ideal. It's got sort of like, it's rusty down there, right on the edges where it joins the plastic, and when that fails, you lose all your coolant anyway. So it's worth replacing. They're fairly cheap anyway. So we just have to remove 2 bolts at the bottom, 2 bolts at the top for the fan, and the fan switch needs moving over as well. So we'll do that now. Okay, for this job, we just need a 10mm to remove these bolts, and I've got I want to say it's a 27mm. If I remove the wire from the fan, then yes, that's the power for the fan. You've got the earth this side. Yeah, 27mm. Let's undo that first. This is the fan switch, and it's probably going to be fairly tight. It's not tight at all. I don't think anyone tightened that up. Obviously, you don't want it too tight anyway because it's only going into plastic. In an ideal world, you'd probably replace the fan switch as well, but I've not had problems replacing it, or rather not replacing it on other vehicles before. I'm just going to give it a wipe over, and obviously as long as the fan switch works, it doesn't actually matter, and they are really easy to change in situ if required. But this one was working because the fan was coming on. It was just on all the time because obviously it was losing its coolant. So just going to screw that straight into the new rad. As I say, you don't want it too tight. There's probably a torque for this, but I've gone with the torque is right there. And just while we're there, these bushes will fit in here, but what I'm going to do, oh actually the other one's already on the car, I'm going to put that on the car side when it goes back in, just so that you can line it up when you place it back on. So let's just swap back over to our 10mm. We've just got to undo the 4 bolts, so 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, and everything is there for you on the new radiator. You just line it up with the holes that are there and just bolt it straight over. Okay, so let's now cut. No, don't I'm just going to shut this and put it on top of here because it's much easier if you've got a flat surface to put the fan in on, so you can actually get to the bolts. So just going to slide it over the top like that, and then we just need to line up the bolt holes. This fan works obviously, so this fan's fine. If you need to replace them, which we did on G's Skoda Favorit Forum estate, we actually used a universal one which takes a bit less power and sits a bit flusher, but obviously it's not original, but that's fine. It does the job it needs to do. So if you need to replace your fan, a universal one works fine. But you tend to find that they're sort of like plastic pull-through pieces for your radiator, which isn't quite as good a design as obviously the original bolt-on design that this has. If you were cleverer than me, you could probably fit a universal fan inside the original shrouding like this one. But here we are. So those are all lined up. Just want to tighten them up. Don't have to be done up to an excessive torque, but as long as they're done up and tight, then she isn't going to go anywhere. With all of that tight, the only thing left to do is just put our wire back onto the fan switch, and obviously the other side of the fan switch will go back into the loom when the radiator's on. But to make the job easier, we're going to leave this radiator right here, and we're going to do it last. So now we're going to do the rest of our head gasket job. This can go in later. Okay, so I need to access the carburettor to remove stuff around there, and obviously we've got a few other bits to remove as well. So I'm just going to start by taking off the air intake. We've got a new air filter for this as well, so that'd be nice. And that's all done. Just put that there a second. I'm just going to check on the condition of said air filter if it's in there. We'll replace it anyway, so we've got a new one. But yes, okay. So, oh dear. Now this is going to be something you guys want to see. Now the filter is actually quite new, but as you can see on the inside, it's full of rubbish. So obviously there is a oil breather that goes in here. That's going far, far away because that ain't ever going in here. We need to do a good clean up on the inside of here as well because it's full of, I don't even know what to call it. It's like mayo, isn't it? Basically where the coolant is mixed with the oil in the engine and come up through the breather, it's come through as like a horrible solidified mess and actually overflowed instead of going, you know, normally in an oil breather you just put a little bit of oil down into the carburettor and it just, you know, it recycles. But unfortunately, yes, that has made a horrible mess from when the core plug had come out. Nasty. Okay. There's a couple of mounts for this. So there's a few 8mm bolts which I need to go in, or maybe even less, that I need to remove from this sort of brass style fitting, which holds the intake cleaner down. There's this mount here, and just looking around the back because I can't remember if there's anything else. I'm pretty sure it's just those, yes. So I need to find something for that, and I'm going to take off the intake from here. So if I save that nut over there, I'll find a screwdriver, which is covered in rubbish from the floor now. I'm just going to remove that piece there, but we obviously can't remove the air intake cleaner until those nuts are removed as well. So I'll just have to go and grab another socket. Right, so the 3 nuts are off, so we can now jiggle this bit off, and there's a exhaust sort of recirc for the heat pipe just down there, which I've just removed. I don't know what that was, but I'll find that later. It didn't go down the carb, so that's fine. Right now, we just need to, this pipe has never, ever been off, and it's very tight. There we are. Once it's twisting, it'll be fine. So now, I'm just going to take the cleaner, ow, hit my head out of there. Look at that, nice. That's going to need a really good clean out, so we'll save that job for later. Okay, so you join us by the carburettor. Now there's loads of little things to take off. So we want the carburettor to come off with the inlet manifold and the head all as one. So we just need to remove enough things to allow that to happen. So here is the fuel pipe, which goes into this sort of little mini filter on the carb. Just going to remove this first. This has not been off for some time, so it's going to take a little while to come off. There we are. Just going to let the fuel drain back down, just so it doesn't go everywhere. Okay, so now we've got no fuel line to worry about there, but there is a return line on top, which we do need to worry about, because that'll be an issue when trying to remove the head. So let's just undo the clip on top. And again, a little bit of twisting, and the return will come off. Again, I'll just tack it out of the way somewhere. We'll find it later, hopefully. Right, we've got a couple of coolant lines that go to the carb up here. So we're just going to remove those as well. I think they go to the heater matrix, if I remember rightly. No, they don't. One goes to the inlet manifold and one goes, I don't know. It doesn't matter where they go for this job. As long as they go in somewhere on the other side, we just go disconnect this side. We're not worried about the other side for now. Obviously, if your pipes are naffed, please do replace them, because otherwise you'd just be doing this again. But these pipes are actually pretty good. It's just the radiator that we wanted to change on this one. On the Skoda Favorit Forum estate, I think we ended up changing all the lines, pretty much all the lines.
Absolutely everything.
Yeah, so that's fine. This line, because it's attached to the inlet manifold, it might just get in the way. So I'm just going to take this one fully off and hope I remember where it goes later on. Okay, so what else on the carburettor side? We have a throttle cable, which is actually just on like this rubber bush thing, which you push out, he says. Is something leaking? It's probably just a coolant pipe, isn't it? Yes, just a coolant pipe, that's right. Which I'm just trying to aid myself with a screwdriver to remove the bush end of it. Once the bush end is so close, it is so close. Right, there we are. The bush end of the throttle cable is out. So now it's attached to the black linkage on the carb, and you can pull the black linkage back, pull the throttle cable towards you, and just angle it and take the end out. It's just a little circular piece which slots in at a certain angle, and then it folds over on the black piece like that. So again, another cable thing. Try and stick it out of the way anyway. It's trying to come back to attack me. It's just one more coolant pipe on the back here to remove, which joins roughly to where the other one we just took off is. So if we remove the Jubilee from there, we can remove that coolant pipe, which does actually go to the heater matrix from the back of the inlet manifold. Okay, so there's a lot of things here which are not going to need removing because the inlet is going to be staying attached to the head as it all comes off. So pipes like this and stuff don't need to come off. The servo pipe does need to come off, and the clip on it is actually really rubbish. So just going to pull that off there, and we're going to either replace the pipe or at least cut it back and use a new Jubilee clip, because these old style clips are admittedly a bit naff. You've got an electrical connection, which I believe sorts stuff for the auto choke, which is always a bit funny on these, but let's worry about that another time. We just need to remove this plug here because the rest of it stays attached to the carb. And then I can position myself. We've got a pipe that runs from the vacuum advance on the distributor just here through to the back of the carb, and obviously the distributor's staying on, so I just need to pull the pipe off of the end of there. If I look at the end of that, doesn't look in too bad a condition. Obviously it's hard to tell when they're ribboned up like this. It is a fairly old pipe, but as long as it works, then it's doing the trick. You've got a breather pipe here, which is breathing oil from the rocker cover over to the inlet by the looks of it. So we're just going to pull that off of there as well. Admittedly, all of this is coming off with it, but the rocker cover I will take off because I need to get to the rocker arms. So that is pretty much everything there. Obviously I need to look at the exhaust, but we'll worry about that in a minute, because while we're here and just going by hand, we can remove our HT leads from the spark plugs, because again the distributor isn't coming with us. So what we're going to do is just remove the kingpin from the distributor cap, unclip, and try and remember which way it goes round, but obviously it's all there, so that's fine. So we'll put that somewhere safe. If I look at it's always worth looking at the condition of these, and this is actually very recent, and these ignition leads, these sort of like clips and stuff are recent as well, so I imagine all of this has been replaced fairly recently, so it probably doesn't need a change like we did on previous head gaskets that we've done. I'm just going to take a quick look at the rotor arm while we're here, and that does look a little bit worn, so it's possible that wasn't replaced when the rest of it was done. So I'm either going to clean up the end or I'm going to replace the rotor arm, but we don't have a spare, so we'll worry about that later on. Again, we'll just put that in a safe place for now. So while we're here, let us look at this. We've got a brand new Gates thermostat with a gasket. So what we're going to do is, because this is a bit manky, we're going to remove the pipe to the expansion tank, because we're going to need to remove it anyway to get the head off, and just because we don't want the head off to be off for long while we're cleaning, we don't want the cylinder liners to lift or anything. What we're going to do, just pop that over there, what we're going to do is just do the thermostat while it's here, because there's no harm in doing that. We just need to grab, in this case my closest tool is a 10mm ratcheting spanner, and it just about fits on, so that's ideal. I'm just gonna, there's 3 bolts for this, let's just cut them all off, make sure they're all coming out. I'm pretty sure I did this once and they just snapped on me, so that's great, but this one's okay. So we're just going to undo all of these 3. The lowermost one has this connection to the fuel pump. It's a hard pipe that goes from the filter to the fuel pump anyway. So we'll just get this out of the way first. Obviously that temperature sensor wire that I just removed there as well, we're just going to take that out of the way. Obviously we just have to remember that it needs to go back onto said sensor when everything goes back together. And as you can see, it's all falling off now anyway. Just go pay attention to what goes where. So obviously it's just got to come past that. So that goes that way around, so we'll just put that over there. And the thermostat is going to be a little bit seized in there, I imagine. There we are. Just like so. So we're just going to make sure this is all clean. Don't want to go crazy with the wire brush and ruin the surfaces or anything. Obviously the screwdriver is still not a massively good idea. I just want to get rid of these big deposits where the gasket and stuff has been, and we'll just wipe it over just to make sure, you know, it's nice and flush as it can be. Here's a cloth I had earlier, so we'll just pour this out and get rid of everything in there as well. Obviously, we'll just do a quick clean on the end cap as well. So the thermostat fits in like so, and hopefully it'll sort of stay there. And I believe that little tap goes towards the bottom, like that. Right, so just going to put the bolts all the way through our cover and gasket, just so that they all stay together. They're not running around everywhere. Gets a bit fiddly. That goes towards the expansion tank, that way it goes towards the front. And then we just want to slot it in. You know what, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, is it? And when you drop a bolt, you can never just find it. Try that again. So slot it in behind there, over the front. Start, if you can, start at the top two, the bottom one escapes, so it's in my other hand. And two, and then I want to go through the mount again, pop it in, and then we just want to do all of these up. Now, if you're in doubt about your sealing, then you can use a bit of gasket seal stuff, instant gasket or whatever you call it. But I've had no problems with just these original Gates gaskets on the thermostats before, so I'm going to happily run this one again and assume that there'll be no problems. The original one didn't have any sealant on anyway, so that's absolutely fine. Obviously, we don't want to attach any pipes back up to this. We're just changing the thermostat just so that it's new, because obviously it wouldn't have been happy with all of that mayo running through it. So it's ideal to have a new one, even if it probably was working fine. It's just to be on the safe side. This hard pipe's going to come with it, and obviously I don't want it to, because I got the fuel system down here disconnected at this end and I want it to stay there. So actually I'm going to remove this bolt that I said I was going to do up and pop it over here safely with my other bolts and nuts that I had from there earlier. I'm just going to make sure these top ones are done up fairly tight, not too tight, because we'll tighten them up proper, and that last one's in when the head is back on. So you must just remember that this needs doing up afterwards. And now you join us for one of the fun jobs, which is removing the 4 nuts that hold the exhaust on. Now I've already cracked them off, I must admit, because I had to basically stand on the engine to get them undone slightly. But we've got a new gasket for this somewhere. If you look at the gasket shape when you change this, you'll see that there's literally 2 on the inner side towards the engine, 2 on the outer side, and they're 12 mils, and you get a slightly larger ratchet in there to crack them off. And then what I've got is a very small ratchet just to take them off at the end. So you can see there, just 12 mil nuts. So that's one of them, and we'll just take the other 3 off. And then all that needs to happen is the downpipe just needs to drop down. You can take the gasket out if you want. It'll be ideal to replace it if you can. But other than that, obviously that's the only part of the exhaust that's going to be in the way when you take the head off. So as soon as that's off, the manifold's coming out with the head anyway, so that's fine. It's going to be easier if I come around that side. So I'm going to take the 4th one off, and I'm just going to push the downpipe down. Just to show you now, the downpipe is dropped down. That's what you're left with the gasket, and the layers have started to deform slightly on this one, so we'll probably end up replacing that gasket with the other one. We've got spare downstairs. So we're just going to take the plugs out now, because we've got some new spark plugs, champion ones, to go in this. So we're just going to use our ratchet with the 10 mil spark plug socket to remove these. We can have a quick look, see what we've got on the end of our spark plugs as well. They're Bosch ones, Super Plus, and there's a little bit of rust on them, so they're probably a little bit on the older side. So yeah, worth changing anyway. Now we have a selection of 13mm nuts on the front here, which hold the front of the head down. Obviously, the main head bolts are going to be the main thing that hold it down, but these are there too. So let's just go and remove these 13mm nuts while we're here. Also, the end one on the left-hand side holds the alternator tension bracket on. So I can't remember if you have to fully release the tension off the alternator first, or if you just remove the tension mounts. We'll find out momentarily. These are nuts with washers, so we're just going to make sure they go in a safe place up here as well. So what I'll do is I'll just pop the bolt through the hole that was in before and just tuck the nut on the end of it, and in theory the alternator tension should stay as it was before. We can always adjust it afterwards if need be. The alternator belt is in good condition, so we don't need to change that. Now what we've got at this point is everything, I hope, removed to be able to get everything off here in one piece. The only things holding it on now are the head bolts and the rocker arm as well, which is underneath the rocker cover. I don't want to do that until I'm actually doing the head gasket, because I'm not going to do it today. So join us in episode 2 on the Skoda Favorit forum for the actual head removal, head gasket replacement, and everything hopefully going back together. Thanks for watching everyone. Like, comment and subscribe. We'll see you all in the next one.